Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Bacon. Welcome to the show, y'all. Well, look here. Queenie and Mary have met. Now they're friends. They rekindled their friendship, and they're talking. They exchange numbers, and they're talking on the phone. They're talking on the phone almost every day. Talking about old times when things were good, when things were better. And they did everything they could to avoid talking about what happened that day. So they talked about everything else. And they talked about how good their kids were in sports and what they hoped and wished for them and all this and that. But they couldn't get around the elephant in the room. What do we tell them when they get together, if they ever get together and talk about this? How do we keep this from coming up? Now, see, this is one of those situations where you got to think about how it would affect their lives. And they both concluded, because they thought they were doing the right thing, to keep it secret from the kids. Now, the husbands, they knew what had happened, because when they both went home and everybody went home, they talked about, you know what I'm saying, who is she and who is she to you and all this and that. And they started to share with their respective husbands the situation that they had already told them, but they never said, that's her or that's her. But now they were doing that, and they were like, okay, this is one of those situations where you have to let things play out. But you don't want the kids to be affected by it. But again, we always think that once the person is locked up, life will go back to normal. And this is several years later. These kids are 15, 16 years old. Spent several years. You feel what I'm saying? Well, one was 15. Let me see. The boy was 13 and the girl was 16. The boy was 13 and the girl was 16. But they were real good at what they did. And they didn't want that to be something that could come between them. One child's father killed the other. How would you think that would play with the kids? Now, they didn't remember their fathers. They didn't. They had moved on. Kids do that. It's not that they didn't love them or whatever. It's just kids move on. And when they're young like that, those memories can be replaced, you know what I'm saying, to the extent that they can. So they had all moved on. Now, Queenie, her daughter, you know, like I say, she was 16. So she started to date and talk to boys and all this and that, right? But she really just didn't see anybody or was attracted to anybody. She wasn't attracted to anybody at her school. But she was always traveling the state playing this softball. And Queenie and Mary had started to get close, and they used to set up these times where they could meet at the different sporting events in Mary's hometown for a softball game. So the little boy went. And he sees her, you know what I'm saying? And he's tall and lanky, and they're young, but still, you know, she sees him and she likes him, but she's not sure because he's like 3 years younger. But he, you know, for a kid, he knows how to carry himself. Meet somebody you like, you're all shy, don't know what to say, don't know what to do. That's how he was. He was really lost at how to deal with this, right? This girl, she made his heart beat fast. She made his stomach twist up in knots. He couldn't get the words out of his mouth. So he's talking to his dad, you know, and his dad is telling him, I'm talking about, Teen, you're too young for that. But I need to explain some things to you because you're growing up fast. And he knew what those symptoms were that the young boy was telling him. He knew that the young boy was feeling something for the girl. But he also knew the situation. So he was trying to use that as an opportunity to teach him about the birds and the bees. You understand what I'm saying? But at the same time, tell him you're too young because he really want to push him away from her. Save that for some other girl. You feel me? Find one about your age. He's saying all of these different types of things to try to dissuade him from following through with this, right? He don't want him to go through with this. Trying to discourage him, y'all. So it didn't work. It didn't work. His father schools him on this and that and that and this, and he can't wait until the next game so he can be around girl or they come to his game or whatever the case may be. And it happens that he had a basketball game and Mary invited Queenie there and listen. When old girl saw him out there on that basketball court, the way he was handling himself, she knew then that that's who she wanted. He handled himself much, much older than a 13-year-old on that court. Could nobody do nothing with him. He's out there showing out, doing things that 16, 17, 18-year-olds couldn't do. He was a prodigy. He was the real deal. And she liked how he handled himself. So after the game, they were in the corner talking and all this and that, and they exchanged phone numbers. Now their parents, everybody's looking initially because they were not focusing on what brought these two families together and bound them forever, right? They weren't focused on, they were just looking at two young kids with puppy love going on. And they were excited and happy about it until they saw the numbers being exchanged, and then they got to thinking, wait a minute, what? We can't let this happen. We cannot let this happen. So Mary was like to Queenie, what are we going to do? She said, we're going to have to back up because they can never find out what really ties them together. They can never find that out. They're too young for that. So Mary and Queenie continued to talk on the phone, but they didn't meet each other at different games as much as they had started to do. But see, the kids were talking on the phone every day, every night, all day, all night. Whenever they had a free moment, they were on the phone with each other, laughing and joking and having fun. And Mary's husband, he told him, he said, look, we're fighting a losing battle here, trying to keep them apart. What we have to do is confront this issue. Confront what happened. And Mary was insistent, not now. He's too young. He cannot know what his father did to that young girl's father. No, she did not want to do that. She did not want to put him through that or put her through that. It's just too soon. So they continued to talk on the phone and have fun, and they officially declared themselves boyfriend and girlfriend. It's official. And they were both sharing social media things and talking to each other and doing all these different types of things or whatever the case may be. And just when you thought that, it couldn't get any more serious, it did. It was a function. It was one of those sporting events in the city, where they invited all the phenoms, all the next generation sport greats and all this and that. And Queenie and Mary both were there with their kids. And the kids all play together and talk together and have fun together, and they had a dance that night. And the two of them snuck off. They wanted to be alone. They didn't have sex or anything like that, but they on each other in a way that only boyfriend and girlfriends would do. And they got caught by one of the chaperones. And the chaperones took them back to their parents, There was some other older teenagers, And they did what they were told to do. They took them back to their parents and they told them what they were doing. And now Mary and Queenie both were shocked, horrified, not knowing what to do. And they both told them, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. So the years going on, and everybody thought that Queenie's daughter would be the first to break it off with him because she was already 16. She had a couple of more years in high school and then it was over with. So it's not going to last. This can't last. So, and she's 18, he's 15. But he's shot up. He's 6 foot plus. Body like an 18-year-old. And the voice to match. Sounded like he's ready for the world. He's got colleges coming at him left and right. She does too. She's got to pick one. And she picks Syracuse, the Orange Men. She wants to go there and play softball. They got a good program. So she decides to go there, and he tells her he's coming right behind her. He's going to Syracuse as well when the time comes. She'll have a couple of years left, and he'll be right there with her. So they stayed in touch, and they made it work some kind of way, you know? They were just madly in love with each other. And all of a sudden, one day out of the blue, they get a letter from Stanley. They don't know how he found him. They don't know how he got the address. He wants to see him. Mary takes that opportunity to write him back. She never written him before. And she tells him that she's married, happily, moved on, but that her son had fallen in love and that she wanted him to leave him alone. And she explained to him what was going on, how Rick's daughter is the girl that their son is in love with, and they're both serious about it. Now, when he gets this letter, he reads it. He doesn't know what to think or do. So he goes to talk to the chaplain about it, and he tells the chaplain what's going on. He tells the chaplain how he's feeling about the situation because he don't know what to do. He don't want to ruin anything for his son, but what's done is done. He can't change the past. So he asked the chaplain, what do you recommend I do? And the chaplain told him, stay out of that. If your son wants to talk to you, talk to him. But the day is going to come if they stay together. This is what the chaplain's telling him. The day is going to come if they stay together, that somebody's going to want an explanation. Because this could affect his son's life, his future. He really is into this gal. Really into her. So he writes back. And he tells Mary, look, he won't write again. He apologizes. Get rid of the letter so he won't have any idea who he is or anything like that. Just go ahead and tell him that Tim is his father, everything. He'll never hear anything different from him, period. And he goes ghost. Now Queenie was a little different. She kept newspaper clippings about the crime. She kept up with all of the different things that were going on in court. She had that. And her daughter, as she was preparing to go off to college, they were getting some of the bags together. They needed some boxes to put her things in. So when she was in the attic, she found a box that says, Rick. And she didn't know who Rick was. She had these vague memories. She thought that was her father, but she opened it and she saw the pictures. And she sat there and she saw herself in it. And she started to remember. And as she continued to go through the newspaper clippings, she saw that her father had been murdered in Tennessee at a function that, things got out of hand. And as she continued to read, she read the names of the man that did it, Stanley, and their last name and all this and that. She read all of that, but the dots never connected. There's no reason for it to connect. But in that moment, she developed this seething, I want to say not a hatred, but an animosity, an anger towards the man that had taken her father away, even though she really didn't have any clear, strong memories of him being in her life. She sat there and she wondered, what if? Because the man that was in her life right now, acting as her father, he didn't treat her mother the way she wanted her mother to be treated. So in her mind, she made it sort of like her father was this perfect dude. Everything would have been just fine if Dad would have been here. So now all of a sudden the person that took her father away was the villain in ways that transcended just the crime. Now he's responsible for everything in her life. that hasn't gone right. And to some extent, that is true. That is true. Because the things that have gone wrong in her life, she needs somebody to blame for that. It's not her fault. She don't want to blame her mother because her mother's being mistreated. So it has to be the person that took her father away from her. It has to be. And later that night, when she's talking to Mary's son, she shares with him this story of how she just discovered a box in the attic with her father's pictures in it, and she sent them pictures over the phone, and she was telling them about him, and she didn't never name the guy that shot him. She refused to call his name, but she's telling him everything else. And you know, Mary's son, he's not thinking, you know what I'm saying, it's never, these dots are not connecting in his mind as well, that, you know, he's from Tennessee. It's not connecting like that with him. He's not seeing it that way. It's no reason for him to. His father's name is Tim. So he empathizes and sympathizes with his girlfriend about the situation. And he tells us, he said, if there's anything that I could do for you, I would. I would. And she appreciates that. And she says she wishes that she could just talk to the man that took her father away and ask him why. Why did you do that? And that's a question that a lot of crime victims have. They want to ask why. And they should have that right to do it. I would love to talk to my victims and tell them. There's no real explanation, you know, but I would like to answer any questions that they have to the best of my ability. So I understand why she wanted to ask him that, you know. I understand that. So time goes on and this conversation is getting deeper and deeper, and they ended up getting off the phone, and young dude lay in the bed that night. He's thinking about, dang, his girl is hurting. He wishes he could comfort her. He wishes he could do something to help her. So he tells his mother what happened on the phone that night. And he shows his mom the pictures. And as they sit at the kitchen table eating breakfast, his mom is mortified. She sees these pictures and she says, oh, that's so sad. But she's looking at her husband, Tim, and Tim is looking at her, and they're trying to figure out, what do we say about this? And they decide, without having to say a word to each other, to say absolutely nothing about it. They just exchange the looks. And the day moves on. And they tell him, you just be there for her. Comfort her in the best way that you can. But there's nothing that you can change. There's nothing that you can do to change the past now. And he's listening to him. He believes his mother and his father, and he trusts what they say. So he comforts his girl. He tells everything is going to be all right. And when he gets to the school, that they'll have big fun, and he'll keep her mind off of that, and he's going to be the man in her life. All of these types of things. They look at here, young dude, but he got game. He got game. And he's sincere. He really cares about her. He really cares about her. And if you want to know how this thing continues to play out, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode. But before I go, listen, man, y'all need to answer the question of the day. You might have a chance to win that nifty 50 or a t-shirt. One of my Ain't Nothing With You t-shirts. It's in the merch collar right up under the...
I'm getting